Hey Hadi, so welcome back. This is going to be part two in the series of what I accomplished my first year postpartum and then what I've learned. But we're still on accomplishments. So in part one, I briefly talked about the importance of like taking care of yourself, and that is associated with having an identity outside of motherhood. Because I am in the process of doing my hair. And so I think before I had a baby, I had the time to pretty much dedicate my whole day to hair if I wanted to. But this process has been going on for a while. So let's just chat about the second thing that I accomplished. So today I'm going to be talking about um, what did I accomplish in the first year postpartum, and that is going back to work. So I'm gonna be doing a little bit of my hair right now before I get into work for the day. And again, on how that process went. So I didn't really get back to work until 9 months postpartum. So that was a big adjustment because I had almost a year that I didn't work. And not necessarily work, but not work for an employer. So that was like a hard transition to be in just because I am the sole provider for my son. So that was taxing. And although I spent a lot of time worried about when I'm going to be able to get back to work to pay the bills, it really hit me like a truck when I actually had to go back to work. So let's just face it, if you are a mom, honestly, for me, going back to work actually sucks. And I was very blessed and very grateful to still be able to maintain the same job that I had and to be able to have that long with my son after birth. Because originally they were like, hey, 6 weeks, that's the normal whatever. And I wasn't even ready to go back after 6 weeks. I had already been working with my doctor to keep me out longer for at least like 6 months. But I guess God gave me like 3 extra months. And that was hard to be in because I couldn't really relax and get into my alternative career that I wanted to because I was just so worried about not having no money to pay no bills. Because I knew that I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I knew I wanted to be able to work around my baby, and I knew I wanted to be a full-time creator. However, still 9 months post-birth, still battling postpartum depression, and still learning how to be a mom, I wasn't even able to create the content the way that I wanted to. Like, I did start making more content for my mom TikTok page, but I stopped pretty much making content for this page. Like, I stopped being able to make longer vlogs, and I still have pregnancy content vlogs that I still need to upload. And so mentally I just did not have the capacity to do what I needed to do. But so upon going back to work, I was so blessed just because they accommodated me. It still sucked, but they accommodated me. I had accommodations for breastfeeding. I had accommodations for my pelvic floor shot after I had my baby. So I had accommodations for being able to take extra breaks to use the bathroom and stuff like that, and accommodations, for my mental health too. And even with all those accommodations, it was still a big shock for me to go back to work. I find not that the workforce is unkind, because like I said, that they accommodated me, and I'm really blessed to have that. It just still, honestly, it still wasn't enough. It still was a hard transition because I've never done this before. I've never had to work with a baby, right? So it's like I'm a remote mom, right? So my son, he stayed home with me. And so it worked out for a while. And then because I still didn't have like the best of a sleep schedule, I just decided to pick the latest shift possible to sign in. And later on, that started to kick me in behind because I missed everything during the day, and I didn't get off until 8 p.m. And I was still in school. So that was hard. And I just didn't know how to make it work. And as much as I tried to make a schedule, it just wasn't working out. Um, I started to really struggle with work. Work was just really hard for me. I noticed that I struggled a lot because nobody, it just, if you are not going through it, you just don't get it. And even though I had my baby there with me, I still had to constantly live in like, okay, well, what if somebody hears him in the background? And what if I lose my job? And what if I can't do this or perform the best way that I need to? And the job, I'm not even gonna lie, was a bit overwhelming for the specific client that I had at the time. So it was really a lot. And I didn't feel like I was giving or being given all of the resources that I needed to succeed. And then the schedule that I worked, and then the manager that I had, I found that since I was pregnant, I could not tolerate male managers. I don't know if that makes me sexist, but I just found that going through pregnancy, I just didn't feel comfortable being under the leadership of a male. Because even though I had my accommodations and stuff like that, it's still having to answer to a male about something they'll never understand was just also even more frustrating, and led me to feel even more isolated. Now, the company, like I said, I'm so blessed to be still a part of them. Like, they definitely helped me out a lot. Like, it's such a good company to work for. They definitely helped me out financially too, because like I said, I have been out of work for pretty much almost a year. I left to go on maternity leave November of 2024, and I did not get back to work until probably September 2025. And so honestly, hotties, I didn't even make it 6 months before my world came crashing down. And I did my very best. I noticed that I stopped being able to show up to work. Like, Kai is so good to me just because there's no way I have a job. Like, anybody else, I wouldn't have no job. Like, I almost lost my job a couple times just because I started not being able to connect. And I started to think that I am so great at customer service. Like, I used to enjoy it, and now I'm just thinking like maybe customer service is not for me anymore now that I am a mom. The capacity is shorter, the patience is shorter, and it just was a lot. Nothing was enough. So it started getting so bad to the point that it definitely caused my mental health to decline even deeper. And I wasn't able to even show up for myself, which played into how I showed up as a mom. Like, it just was very hard. I started falling behind in school, and it just really was a lot. And I guess a lot of people, my doctor kept saying like, oh, things would be easier for you if you just put him in daycare or let somebody else help you. No, that wouldn't have helped me. That would have just spiked my anxiety. But I will say, going back to work, it showed me that I can juggle a lot. It showed me that, I'm pretty much like a master multitasker, because imagine working and caring for a baby at the same time while still on the phone. I've mastered quick fingers, like mute button game strong. I mastered the power of research, finding some good technology to be able to conceal background noise. So I learned about myself that going back to work, it did push me differently, but I'm not gonna take away from the fact that it actually did suck. My mental health definitely declined. And back to saying, even though that I did have my baby with me, I still felt like I was losing out on him. I was missing out on him because I knew that I wanted to be a house mom when I had a baby. I knew I wanted to be a homeschooling mom. I knew I wanted to play a big part in his education and his development. And with working the way that I was, I wasn't able to sit down and start teaching him as early as I wanted to. He spent a lot of time in front of a screen. Then I started feeling like a failure because of that, because that's the only way. Like, I tried to create a little lesson plan and a little schedule for him. He didn't really like the floor that much. Like I said, he was 9 months at the time, but after a while he started crying, and then he started crawling, which is okay. But I noticed I would keep him kind of boxed in all the time. I would just keep him in the playpen all day. It was the portable one, so he didn't really have a lot of room to move, and he just was stuck in there watching a screen. And then every time I had a break, I would just run back and forth in between calls and kind of love on him a little bit and just do the best that I could. And then I'm breastfeeding, so I'm breastfeeding in between calls and stuff like that. And he's just fussy, so I'm just trying to keep his attention occupied with a screen, and that just made me feel so bad. But then as he started getting older, I feel like when he started crawling, I just kind of did away with the playpen and allowed him to be a free baby. But I still was just missing out on him. Like, he would be sleeping. Like, it's just kind of like, yeah, it would be easier for me when he was sleeping, but then when I get off of work, I am not really looking at, okay, now I can just spend this downtime with him. No, like, now it's 8, he's gonna go back to sleep because I worked 11:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. So now I'm gonna put him down. So now I gotta hurry up and get in the kitchen to do some homework. So I was still like shorting, like, I just feel like I was still losing out on the parts of motherhood because of I have to work, right? Or we not gonna have no place to live. And so returning back to work just wasn't easy. And like, the workload just is very hard. I started feeling like a failure because now I don't even know like how that's affected my breast milk at this point. I didn't really pump any milk because, like I said, I was still at home, so I've been exclusive since he probably was like 2 months. So didn't have to worry about pumping or anything like that. But so it's kind of like, there's power in the tongue, right? And for so long I was just like, oh God, I just really just want to work on my own terms. Like, rising early is not me now that I'm a mom, just because did I ever really rise early? No, only when I had to. But now when I became a mom, I don't really get into bed probably before midnight or 1 a.m. And if I am, I have to be feeling extremely unwell. And for so long I'm just like, God, I can't work like this anymore. This isn't working. When I realized it wasn't working, I was like, God, I really want to be able to work for myself. Like, I just need an avenue to be able to just be a full-time creator, but I just didn't have the strength. Like, on the weekends, I pretty much was sleeping the day away. Again, still not engaging with the baby the way that I want to, because I'm like, okay, well, on the weekends, this will be our time. No. Shot, just day shot, energy shot, mental health shot. I wouldn't go outside for like a whole week. We wouldn't see outside, and that just wasn't good. So it got to a point that I just was like, hey, told my doctor, I need to get out of work. I need to be out of work to take care of myself. I need to be able to recover. I need to be able to learn how to pretty much create a schedule for myself, and I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm extremely overwhelmed, and it's a lot happening, and this is affecting my physical health as well. And I just need some time out to really be able to start taking care of myself, because I was not doing that. So, and I opted into some benefits that are supposed to assist me while I'm out of work. So I get out of work, and that assistance just did not kick in. So it caused me to be even more stressed. And so during my recovery leave, I am not even able to recover the way that I need to, because I'm super stressed. Still thinking about work when I'm out of work to recover. And the whole time I'm just focused on work. So that just wasn't conducive. And then during the 6 weeks, that could have been time for me to still work on content, work on getting those brand deals. No, like my mental capacity was still shot. And I just feel like it would probably take a good at least 90 days to get in the flow of something and learn how to practice and stick to a new routine. Even that just felt rushed. Like, I just feel like even my doctor didn't understand, because she was just like, oh, by 6 weeks you should already be on the schedule. I'm like, that's literally impossible. It, like, how is that possible? It's literally impossible to implement a schedule in a week and start following it. I have to learn how to follow this schedule now with a baby that's constantly changing. Nothing is consistent about his life or mine. So, I ended up going back to work sooner than I was ready for. Just because, again, we got bills to pay. I can't just be out of work so nothing is working out the way that I thought that it would be working out. So go back to work. My first week back to work, I couldn't even work just because my equipment just decided that it was not gonna work. So then I had to wait for a replacement. So the return back to work, it was anxiety inducing. I'm not even gonna lie. I just was like, hey doc, this is how I need you to support my return back to work. This is how I need to be accommodated on top of how I'm already being accommodated. In order for this to be a smooth transition, because, well, I didn't get to recover the way that I had planned. So really my mental health is still in the trash. But hey, I'm just going back to work because, hey, got babies to feed. So there's that. And so then I get back to work. Then 3 days into the following week, I am pulled to the side and being told that I'm being suspended due to me being out on medical leave. I can no longer work because I can't train. Why they didn't train me, which was ridiculous, because I showed up for the training, but it wasn't my fault that my equipment shut down. So I kind of feel like I should sue them, but I'm gonna leave it be because they suspended me. So that's just suspended me. Here I am back again, no work, no pay. This is just recently. I went on medical leave April 30th, so the first start was May 1st. It's now August 4th. So I've pretty much been out of work except for that little week and a half I just told y'all about. And so going back to work was just not a smooth transition. And like I said, circling back to that power in the tongue, I tried to hold on to my faith a lot more now that I'm a mom, and I had started looking into like 1099 independent contracting work. And I'm like, you know what, while I was on leave, I started looking into that to seeing like if that would be a better fit for me. And my mental capacity was just so shot, I couldn't even focus on that. I ended up losing that specific contract just because I just was so shot out mentally. I couldn't focus on anything and I just wasn't thriving. And so I guess God is kind of just like, after so long where you said you really don't want to be working like this, so hey, now you got all the free time now to create content. So I invested in this extra edge camera. I already had a Sony ZV-1. I don't even know why I bought this. I think it's just because I just was seeing it trending. I'm still not even comfortable with the Sony camera yet. But I'm going to get back into using that. Just really elevating myself and elevating my content. So here we are now, August 4th. God has really opened the door for me to try getting another contract on my own and doing that again. So he just worked everything out, and I just believe that if you really want something, you can ask for it. So he really opened the door for me to be able to still work around my baby and build partnerships with businesses to be able to work for them. And so that's what inspired today's series or today's segment, because listen, it's 3:06 p.m. My baby is down for a nap. This is how I'm dressed, and I am doing my hair right now. I decided to work on my hair while I talked about this, because once I finish with these last little pieces, I'm going to begin to work. I got to make some phone calls. God has opened the door for me to be able to be a personal assistant, and I can just work pretty much around whatever my client needs me to do it, my client will give me some tasks to do, and I'll just get them done, and I'll just be sure to check in with the client, go over some things. So that's pretty much on the schedule for today. I need to go over some stuff with the client, pretty much give the client a rundown on things that need to be checked off on the list and see where the client's at with that. Also, before I had my son, I did do some personal work for others with helping them create content, and God is opening up the door for me to be able to do that again. So that is why I am just trying to be a little bit more proactive on getting my hair finished, because I can't just show up on camera looking any kind of way and representing myself and then also this specific client or any client, because I need to be making content for this client as well. So that's why I'm just like, I really need to get my hair done. And so sometimes you just have to take what you're good at and build a career out of that. And something that I had a passion for, God is just really allowing me to be able to utilize it to build myself. And I'm not going to sit here and act like none of this is stressful, because it was devastating to be out of work for that long and not get paid. Then to just push myself to going back into something I wasn't ready for, just to still get the short end of the stick, was very devastating. But I will say I've been able to sleep. There have been some nights where I was kind of awake, but this time around, when they told me that we need you to clock out, I was just focused on like, okay, now I can utilize this time more for real this time. I've accepted that, hey, this is what it is, and now this is what I can look forward to. I am not gonna miss time like I did before, stressing. So I'm gonna rest this time. I'm not gonna treat myself like that. I'm still gonna keep doing what I need to do. I'm gonna focus on finishing school strong and focusing on taking better care of myself. That starts with me. And so when you do that, you literally just miss out on so many times especially with the baby. Like, he's 1 now, he's rapidly growing, so now I don't have to miss so much time with him dedicated to work. But this time I just chose a different outlook, always thinking about like a backup plan. So like I said, God worked everything out, and I'm just grateful. So it's all a learning process. It literally is. But I will say the return back to work did suck. Even though I am a remote mom, man, it was hard. There were some days that I did like allow for someone to like help, right? And it would just only be for literally just, so you got to look at clock in, you work 2 hours, and then you get a 15-minute break. But I did have breaks in between whenever, like I said, I wanted to take some, because I had accommodations for that. And then 2 hours again, then you get a 30-minute lunch break, then you got 2 more hours, then you get your last break. So I would allow, but that even wasn't helpful, because my anxiety would be through the roof. Then I ran into some problems with that, because I'm worried about the safety of my son. He can't talk. He had just started walking. He haven't been walking for a year yet. So it's just people listening and respecting to what you say as a mom. I ran into some of that. So going back to work just kind of sucks as a whole. Like, people think like it's just all gonna work out, and sometimes it does, but sometimes that can be very debilitating to the mental health of that mother. And she's still expected to perform at tip-top shape and all of these things. And it's just kind of not that realistic, because not everybody wants to be heavily medicated just to get through life. I wish there were some other things that I could do. I just feel like if more moms had in-home support, like, it would be a little bit easier for her to transition. Like, I want to be able to be in a position that I can support other moms, especially the way that I wasn't supportive. But like, if I'm caring for the baby, yo, bring the baby up to the mom for feedings at work, right? So she doesn't necessarily have to stress about pumping all the time, like, because sometimes that's not even that easy to be at work. It's stressful, and you still need the baby's saliva to connect with your body. Pumping is not always like really gonna get it all out, and sometimes maybe I would just bring the baby up to mom just to, hey, comfort. Mom's having a rough day. Let's just go visit mom, something like that. Let's just go bring mom something to eat because maybe she forgot to pack her lunch. Going back to work is not an easy transition, or you know something like, let's take mom's car to get her some gas or something, so she doesn't have to be worried about stopping to get gas on the way home from work. She just wants to get off for work and come home to her baby. Like, just stuff like that. The transition is so hard. And I don't think that a lot of people focus in and think about that. Even the mom that's actually going back to work herself, I don't even think she realizes how hard the transition is. It's just like a lot of moms, I feel like they're forced into being high functioning. But if you are a new mom that is just returning back to work, babe, I'm so proud of you. And don't feel like you are a failure, because even though you do feel like it, you're not. Because honestly, it's some women out there that is just sitting out there and just actually don't want to work. Like, they just are not trying to work. They're not trying to better themselves. But you are. And so I do want you to take a moment to think about some things that you are good at. If you don't feel like returning back to the workforce is for you, I know that content is not for everybody, but think about some things that you are good at. And maybe if you need help getting into content and creating content, definitely let me know. I know I've taken breaks and I've fallen off, but babe, like, I love doing content, and I find it easier doing content for someone else than it is for myself. But I feel like doing things for other people, helping them and serving them, helps me. It just kind of motivates me a little bit more. But Hadi, so that wraps up part 2 of what I accomplished the first year postpartum. So if you watch this all the way to the end, thank you. Let me know what it was like for you returning back to work right after you had your baby. And as always, keep it hot and classy. I'm going to go ahead and call my client now and get busy. Bye.